So what would it actually take for the United States to go to war with Iran? In this explainer, we're going to jump inside a fictional 2026 conflict, codenamed Operation Epic Fury. We're going to break down the 10 strategic objectives that could drive a decision that massive. Let's dive in. Okay, let's set the scene. The date is February 28, 2026. This is the day our fictional scenario kicks off. The United States and Israel launch a huge military operation against Iran, igniting a conflict that's about to completely reshape the Middle East. The sheer scale of the initial assault is just staggering. Get this, in only the first 12 hours, coalition forces launched almost 900 airstrikes across Iran. This wasn't some warning shot. No, this was a full-on blitz designed to shock and overwhelm, right from the very beginning. And that gets to the core of it, right? This operation was never just about winning a war. The bigger goals here were control, deterrence, and, well, survival. It was a calculated campaign meant to redraw the map, send a powerful message to global rivals, and lock in strategic interests for the long haul. So how did they plan to pull all this off? Well, the whole thing was broken down into 3 phases. First, we'll look at the initial military shockwave, then we'll move to the economic battlefield, and finally, the geopolitical endgame. Let's start with phase 1. The first 3 objectives were all part of one coordinated blitz. The idea was to decapitate, disarm, and demoralize the Iranian regime all at the same time. You can think of it like a 3-pronged spear aimed right at the heart of their ability to fight back. Objective number 1, that was all about a long-standing U.S. goal, making sure Iran never gets a nuclear weapon. Airstrikes hit enrichment facilities at places like Fordo and Natanz. This was about wiping out their nuclear ambitions before they could ever become a reality. Then came Objective 2, and with it, one of the most stunning moments of the entire conflict. In those initial strikes, the supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, was killed. Just like that, the country's entire command structure was thrown into absolute chaos. You see, this highlights the psychological side of the attack. By taking out the head of the regime, the US was banking on creating a power vacuum, sparking internal chaos, and basically paralyzing Iran's ability to make decisions at the worst possible moment. Okay, so the leadership is in disarray. The next focus was on the regime's biggest military advantage, and that was objective number 3, neutralize Iran's huge arsenal of ballistic missiles and, just as importantly, its cheap but incredibly effective swarm drones that could overwhelm pretty much any defense. And you know what? The campaign was brutally effective. By April 2026, just 2 months in, more than half of Iran's missile launchers were gone, and its drone capacity had been cut by over 50%. They were systematically clearing the skies of Iran's most dangerous weapons. But this conflict wasn't just being fought against military targets. Not even close. The second phase of the operation opened up a totally new front, the economic battlefield. And believe me, the stakes here were just as high. Which brings us to a really critical question. How is it possible that one single narrow strip of water could hold the entire global economy hostage? The answer, of course, is the Strait of Hormuz. It is the single most important oil choke point on the planet. Roughly a fifth, 20% of the world's entire oil supply passes through it every single day. That made objective number 5 really simple. Keep it open no matter what. I mean, you really can't overstate the stakes here. If Iran could threaten, or worse, close the strait, it would have immense leverage over the whole global economy. For the United States and its allies, letting that happen just wasn't an option. Even with the U.S. Navy working to secure the strait, the conflict sent massive shockwaves through the world's markets. In just the first few days, oil prices shot up by over 60%. And that brings us right to objective number 6, trying to manage the economic fallout and stabilize energy markets while all this chaos was unfolding. This really underscores a key point. The economic front was every bit as critical as the military one. In a conflict like this, controlling the flow of energy literally means controlling the global economy itself. And that brings us to our final section, the long-term geopolitical endgame. This is where the whole thing moved beyond immediate battles and into shaping the future balance of power for years to come. Objective
Objective number 7 was all about sending a message. The US used over 13,000 munitions during this campaign. That kind of overwhelming force wasn't just for Iran. It was a crystal clear demonstration aimed at rivals like China and Russia.
Yeah, this was about way more than just military targets. It was performance. Every single strike was a signal to the rest of the world about American military dominance and its willingness to project that power anywhere on the globe.
But what was the ultimate point of all this pressure? That leads us to objective number 9. All that overwhelming military force, it wasn't an end in itself. It was a tool. The real goal was to cripple Iran so badly that it had no other choice but to come to the table and negotiate a ceasefire and a new deal. And finally, holding this entire strategy together were a few absolutely critical containment goals. Objective 4 was to protect the thousands of US troops on bases all across the region. Objective 8 to defend key allies, especially Israel, from the retaliation that was sure to come. And Objective 10 was maybe the most important of all: keep the conflict contained, to stop proxies like Hezbollah from turning this into a catastrophic, full-blown regional war. So, with all 10 of those objectives in play, what was the result? By the middle of 2026, this conflict had left behind a world that was profoundly reshaped. By mid-2026, the consequences were brutally clear. Thousands of people were dead, global trade routes were a mess, and the balance of power across the entire Middle East had been fundamentally rewritten. Because in the end, Operation Epic Fury was never just a war between two countries. It was a battle fought over the very foundations of our modern world: the flow of energy, the projection of power, and the future shape of the global order itself.